The scenario to be played is Destruction. It has a 12x6 rectangle placed in the middle of the board. It has the kill box in effect. You will then also place 2 objectives on opposite corners. You get 1 point for destroying or removing from play your opponent's objective. You get 1 control point for controlling the zone and 2 for dominating. First person to 5 points wins the game.
Hey everybody, this is Gaston, and for this round, I am back with my minions. So this time around we're running Dr. Arkadius, Nature of the Beast, paired up with Helga the Conqueror. The idea behind taking these 2 lists is that they are our newest lists. The Arkadius came out in the new theme, No Quarter, the new theme force, and then Helga is the most recent Warlock. So I just wanted to give them a little bit more table time, a little bit more exposure, because they are so new. Pretty tough decision what to do going into Cryx's first round. I'll talk about that a little bit later. But the new Arkadius theme force is very, very good if you haven't had a chance to play it yet. It's 14 war beasts. This is the traditional arc, so it's 2 of each kind, and then you get the 12 points of free razor boars, which ends up being quite significant.
Hello, this is Iron Lich W, and this week is a game from round 1 of the Advanced Maneuvers Tournament. My opponent is Gaston, and he's playing Thornfall Alliance. I will be bringing an Asphyxious 3 list, as well as a Goreshade 3 list. I had selected the Goreshade 3 over Asphyxious because Goreshade 3 is the new shiny toy for Cryx that I just got painted, and I feel he's very good against living models given that I have Croe's Cutthroats in the list. So, additionally, Goreshade's feat hands out stationary at the cost of my own models, but that's what the Ghost Raiders are for, and they serve it well, being incorporeal. I also want to see what I can do with the Croe's Cutthroats, because the stationary gets around their low rat, and I want to see how well that Goreshade 3 actually works with them.
So I won the roll and elected to go first. There is some good and some bad to that. This is a kill box scenario, and unfortunately that wall directly in front of Arkadius is outside the kill box. But I really do feel like this list gets a huge benefit from going first, and so if I have the opportunity, unless there's some reason really not to, I usually take it. In this particular instance, he has the Cutthroats, but he doesn't have a huge amount of guns, so I'm not terribly scared about not hiding behind the wall. I just have to be careful with my shield guards helping me out. Deployment wise, it's relatively symmetrical. Roadhog, a Warhog, a Gorax on either flank, 3 razor boars, and then 2 gun boars right down the middle.
For Cryx deployment, I start by placing Goreshade in the middle with the Ghost Raiders right next to him. I want the Ghost Raiders to get as far across the board as quickly as they can, so they're going to go straight up the middle. I then decide to put a unit of cav on each side, with my Soul Hunters on my right flank to try and take advantage of the hill along with Darragh Wrathe, and then I put the Bane Riders on the left side because they have Ghostly and they'll be able to handle the force that's on my opponent's side of the board easier than the Soul Hunters. I go ahead and put down my solos. And the Croe's Cutthroats have advanced deploy. I put them in front of the Ghost Raiders because when the Ghost Raiders activate, they'll be able to run through the Cutthroats and kind of screen them.
So we'll cover what my turn 1 is a little bit before we get into why I chose this list. Turn 1 for me with Nature of the Beast is a little convoluted, even though I do the same thing every time, so that helps a lot. Initially, I force the 2 Roadhogs, damage them to get a little bit faster, then they run up for free. They each have some Fury on them. Then I go ahead and I take another War Beast, sometimes a Gorax, sometimes a Warhog, whatever. I rile him and then I have him run for free. And at that point, then Arkadius goes. He maltreats whichever War Beast riled, and then he goes ahead, pops Psychosurgery, and heals up the damaged Roadhogs, as well as the War Beast that he maltreated. so that way everyone's back up to full health. You can do this with Goraxes. You can take one of the Goraxes, you can run them up, maltreat them, and then you can actually have Arkadius charge and needle poke the other Gorax. The reason why you would do that is to get the free charges with them. But, I mean, in this case, I wasn't too terribly worried. I'd much rather have just fully healthy war beasts. Otherwise, everything kind of runs up. You're making almost a V with your line of sight arcs, so that way if you do decide to feed on turn 2, all of your models are going forward. You're not trying to charge into each other. In this case, the objective messed me up a little bit with setting up that kind of standard format, where I didn't want to have my Roadhog turn around and just go smack my objective if I wanted it to frenzy. So I actually positioned him towards the rest of my army, and that way, you know, I have that option and he will still go forward and I'll have more control than just him turning around and smacking the objective. Now, as far as why I chose this list over Helga into Cryx, of all things, was there's really some tough decision making here. There's quite a bit of list chicken going on because he had Goreshade3 and Gaston 3. And nominally speaking, Helga is what I would want to take against infantry spam, against that traditional Cryx. What I was terrified of was actually of him dropping Goreshade3, which he ultimately did, and it actually kind of surprised me. I could have sworn it was going to be Gaston. So I'm sort of glad I chose the army I did. But with those incorporeal models going on, I didn't want them running up into my infantry-heavy Helga army, and then, you know, blowing up everywhere, making everybody stationary, so I'm losing a turn with my infantry. It's just my beast, I can just force them to get rid of stationary, and then if I need to pop the feet to get rid of Fury. And they activate totally normally. Then the other thing is that this particular list, Nature of the Beast, it doesn't have infantry for him to have those Blackbanes go and start creating more of themselves. So it kind of limits my problem. Incorporeal is still a big problem. It's a problem with the Helga list, it's a problem with the Arcadia list, it's a problem if you don't take, you know, Jaga Jaga, basically. But even then, I still have, you know, Primal Shock to get rid of a lot of that. So that was my thought process going into this.
For Cryx turn 1, I start off by allocating a point of focus to each of my jacks, as I plan on running them both this turn. I start off by activating the Blackbane's Ghost Raiders. I'm going to try and run them into near the middle of the zone, that way they can run on turn 2 and potentially catch the opponent's Warlock and Goreshade3's feet. Then I decide go ahead and activate the Bane Riders and run them up, trying to project as much threat into the zone as I could. And given that they're speed 7, they're able to run pretty far up. And I try and spread them out because I want to be weary of the Roadhog's 10-inch spray, especially since I know Targ is standing right next to him pretty much. Then I activate the Stalker and have him run as far as he can. Just a piece to use later in the game, no immediate plans for him. Then I activate the Soulhunters and decide to have them run up. Soulhunters are the fastest model I have in the army right now at speed 8. So I know I don't want to run them the full distances. I'll let my opponent be able to charge one with his lesser pigs, but the rest should be safe. And I activate the Deathripper and have him run up into the zone, not into the zone, but next to the wall, so that he can get a good run in next turn if I need him. Then I activate Darragh Wrathe and have him go near the Soulhunters and do Beyond Death. Once Darragh Wrathe is done, I activate the Croe's Cutthroats and have them just advance. I'm not afraid of them getting shot per se, but I know my opponent has at least 2 AoEs on his light war beasts, and he's got 2 Roadhogs, and he's been pretty good about getting sprays onto certain targets in the past. So I just want to kind of spread him out and make it as difficult for him as possible. Then I activate Dougal MacNaile, have him be near the Cutthroats, but far enough back to where he won't get caught by a spray from a Roadhog. Then once he's done, Goreshade advances up, that's full distance, and then the Skarlock advances and puts Occultation on the Soulhunters.
So you look across the table, especially when playing against Cryx, and it's so intimidating. They have so many models, and you start to get into this mindset where you're like, I can't out-attrition this. I just can't. So you start looking for assassination run, something to do, and that's kind of the nice thing. Another aspect of why I chose Arkadius for this matchup is you always have that assassination run where you can just run things up and frenzy and hope for the best. And the nice thing about having that wall and the kill box is I kind of already knew that Goreshade was going to go over there. So when I was putting my Roadhogs down, I put them intentionally towards that side of the table. And he hasn't migrated behind that wall yet, but he will. So, but you get in this mindset where you're like looking for the assassination, and you just look at this board and it's not there. So I spent too much time looking for it, and eventually you just settle on, you got to start working this with attrition. And how do you start whittling this down? What are your higher priority targets? And for me, looking at this, the higher priority targets for the cavalry, because they can do so much damage. You get the Bane Riders come in, they got the Curse and their powerful charge, and they're just chopping things up. You get the Soul Hunters coming in, they got the 3 attacks, and they're incorporeal, and they're horrible people. But then you have the Cutthroats in the back, and the Cutthroats have poison, but, it's POW 10s, POW 8s on the charge. So you're looking, a couple points of damage. So for me, for my target priority, I'm really looking especially for the cavalry. And in order to go and do that and start addressing that, I'm looking to have that Roadhog at the top of the screen go and try to work on some of those Bane Cav. I'm looking at those 2 little Razor Boars down there, maybe go and working on some of those Soul Hunters. Unfortunately, they're stealthed, so there's not a lot I can do there. So because they're Razor Boars, because no one really cares about them frenzying, I go ahead and have the Gorax move up, and I primal that one. And he goes and he charges into the Soul Hunter. And he actually could have charged for free because of my objective. I forgot. Sorry, bad player. So he did a great job. And a little Razor Boar went and he killed a guy. And then this one goes and he charges, and I probably retrospectively should have primaled that one because he does end up charging out of Arkadius' control area, and so he doesn't get the ability to boost. But he misses in the end. So, but that's okay. I mean, that's one Soul Hunter down. It's another one who's busy. Now we've got Targ coming up. He's going to ancillary attack, which unfortunately misses as well. But it's a spray, so it gets around occultation. And we're starting to work on him. Obviously, Goreshade has Mockery of Life, but they can't necessarily activate that turn, so that buys me a little bit of leeway. Have Arkadius going now. He's going to go ahead and he's going to maltreat Primal Razor Boar because he's going to frenzy anyway. Who cares? And he's scooting up just a little bit, and we're going to go ahead. We're going to put Crippling Grasp onto Blackbanes. And the reason why I did this is not because I'm a tactical genius, it's because it was pretty much the only thing I could do. And at the time I was like, oh, if it's what I can do, then I can do it. And ultimately, in the long run, it actually ends up driving my opponent nuts, and I love it. Because now his guys, they only can run like, 8 inches under Crippling Grasp, something like that. He can't get them where he needs to. He can't run them through my army deep enough in order to get, an effective feat. So it actually ends up really messing with him, and it's fantastic for me. Which, for a random thing, it worked out quite well. So Arkadius moves up, he does his thing. And then I'm checking my control area because, unfortunately, like a genius, I moved Targ over to do the ancillary attack, so I don't necessarily have the benefit of hurting. He's already activated, I can't run him over there to extend my control area. So I want to make sure that Roadhog is taken care of. So, the Roadhog who got the ancillary attack goes ahead, he aims, he sprays. Boosted damage roll leaves the Soul Hunter only on 1 health, but he is on fire, so we're going to go ahead and cross our fingers there. And then we have Lightning Strike on the far Roadhog. I believe that was cast by Arkadius, using Craft Talisman from the Bonegrinders. And so we're going to go ahead, we're just placing him so I can get the line on the spray for the guy I want, and then I'm making sure he's still in my control area. So we're assaulting. We're doing the spray, and we're boosting on the back guy because we want to get a 2-for-1 deal. Don't want to kill the front guy because you want to be able to lightning strike back. So go ahead with the charge attack on him. I believe maybe misses, but we have a buy and a boost somewhere in there. He succeeds, and then he just kind of scoots back. And again, being very, very careful with my placement of my line of sight arcs. So that way, again, I'm keeping it angled towards my opponent, so that way I can get that forward movement if I decide to feat next turn. It's trying to set up what's going to happen maybe next turn. Set up these opportunities for yourself. And I have my Razorboard Jam unit coming in, and they're basically there to take the hit from those riders that I'm very scared about. So that way they can't get to my Roadhog, it limits their retaliation. So the Gunboar's trying to take a shot here, we're checking to see if he's in. It looks like he is, so he's just going to boost a hit and throw some boosted damage on there. And pop goes another cavalry model. And a Cutthroat for good measure, why not? We have another Razorboard coming up, just getting in front of everything. The second Gunboard comes up, he's going to take a shot at the Arc Node. We're not really going to bother to boost, because I'm getting kind of hot on Fury now. And believe it or not, I don't actually want a Frenzy. So, I'm sorry, he's not going to boost, he's just going to be out of range, he's going to scatter. So, it's another 2 Cutthroats gone. So, you know, we've taken out three of the Bane Calves, 1 of the Soul Hunters. We've impeded his incorporeal models, and, you know, there's a couple Cutthroats down there now. The other thing is, I got kind of lucky there with positioning on preventing things from being able to get to Arkadius, we believe.
Cryx turn 2. I go ahead and make a fire check, and it goes out on the Soul Hunter. I do not allocate any focus out. So as I'm sitting here planning on what I want to do, my opponent has got Crippling Grasp on Blackbane's Ghost Raiders, which stops me from charging and running, and they are now moving only 4 inches a turn. This is a rather large road bump or speed bump to the plan I had originally had, so now I'm trying to figure out ways around it. So I'm just measuring out how far they'd be able to get to if they can only move 4. My opponent is unlikely to move up again from my estimation. I'm working out how Soul Hunters might be able to do the job where the Ghost Raiders cannot anymore. So I just go ahead and start with the Skarlock, have him move up, then hit Siphon Bolt onto the lesser pig Warbeast. Siphon Bolt, if I hit him, I get to steal a point of focus or Fury from him. So I steal his Fury and give it to Goreshade. I do a surprising amount of damage, but not enough to kill him, or I wasn't going to be able to kill him with it anyways. So once Skarlock's done, I continue to do some thinking, trying to invent a new plan on the fly. Kind of wishing that I probably should have put occultation on the Blackbane's Raiders at this point. So I activate the Raiders. Really have nothing else to do with them, so they just move up. If they're not going to do anything, they're just going to sit there and get in people's way. Because let's see, with the -2 strength, they're really not hitting hard at all. So I go ahead and swing with 1. Misses, and then the second one is out of range. So then I just go ahead and go for Deathripper. He moves up into the zone as he's probably going to be a little more vital now. And I move the Stalker just to make my opponent keep something on the far back side just to deal with it, or prevent him from moving it into the zone. So then I activate Dougal MacNaile, have him move up his full movement, then just have him start shooting at a pig in the forest. But pig's not engaged, so he doesn't get a bonus there, but the back tip of his base is towing the zone, or not the zone, but the forest, so he does get concealment, which causes Dougal to miss. So once again, I have Dougal, I just go ahead and activate the Soul Hunters and have them charge. I lost 1 as I expected, but the remaining 4 they activate inside Darragh's command range, which gives them incorporeal for the activation. I charge 1 in to tie up a Gun Boar, and I'm trying to fit a second one in there, and my opponent and I are measuring it out. Then we had to call a judge over to look at the placement, and it was determined that I did not have enough space to fit my base in there, so I had to move him back to where he could, to where his last legal position could be, and he failed to charge from there. Then I charged the damaged lesser minion big. I can't think of his name right now. And then the last Soul Hunter just towed the zone and tried to stay out of getting too close from another model so he doesn't get caught by blast damage. So I hit with my charge attack on the gun Boar, and I managed to do some damage, but I even knocked out an aspect, I believe. And then the second Soul Hunter did kill the lesser beast, so he got himself a soul. Then I go ahead and activate Darragh Wrathe. I'm hoping Darragh Wrathe can take on a lesser by himself. That way he uses his Battle Wizard once he kills a model. He gets to do a spell. And he almost does it. He does a lot of damage with his charge attack, but his mount attack doesn't do enough, or his mount attack misses, and leaves the lesser minion beast with like 1-2 health points. So I didn't get to do my Beyond Death to give myself additional armor, and I didn't want to take a free strike from my light cap move, so I just left him there. Then I went ahead and activated Goreshade. Moved him up a little bit. At this point I have 8 focus because I stole one. And I go ahead and use 2 focus to use Mockery of Life, which allows me to bring back one of my undead models as long as he's in command. It's like same rules as Revives, gotta be within command and within a few inches of another model in the unit. But he's only got 1 health point, and I do it again to bring back another Bane Rider, just because I lost more than I expected. Then Goreshade went ahead and sat on 4 focus. Once Goreshade was done, I decided to activate the Bane Riders. I didn't want to commit them, but at the rate at which I was losing them, I wanted to get some work out of them, so they took the order to charge. Except for the one I brought back, he just moved to 7. Then the Riders, they hit both their targets, each charged a separate lesser war beast. And they did a fair amount of damage to all of them, but I could not kill any of them, which I felt hurt the cause I was doing. Then I activated the Cutthroats, had them advance.
So he definitely came in pretty hard last turn, and it's time for us to get to work. So first we start with the frenzy checks. I mean, it's only Fury, you know, if you want to just aggravate a Warmachine player. So the Roadhog is, believe it or not, the only beast to frenzy, and he comes in and he smacks up a gun Boar, which is kind of unfortunate, but what can you do? And then we are going to go ahead and upkeep Crippling Grasp on his incorporeal models. And another benefit of that is it makes it awesome and super easy to primal shock him to death. So up there we're just checking line of sight. We're looking to repeat that same trick with the Roadhog to get rid of a couple more Bane Knights. And really the important thing for me is this turn is kill as much as the Cav as possible. So I'm checking to see the one who was on fire unfortunately didn't go out, and then he Mockery of Life to 1 more back. So he's got 2 of them on 1 health already. And that just leaves me with those, makes it a lot easier, and then you have to go and do the other 5 damage to the rest of them. So the little Razor Boars are actually really earning their keep. And so he took out a Soul Hunter right off the bat. That was one that, I believe that was one that was on fire. So he only had 1 health to begin with. And another little Razor Boar gets rid of another Soul Hunter. So now we have the Feral Bonegrinders come up. They're going to get all together. I only get 2 of them in on the leader to boost their magic attack. And they're just going to go ahead and Bizat one of the incorporeal models. You can see through incorporeal models, so they just saw through one member of the unit and shot one in the back who was unengaged. And they're just doing that so that way the models don't mess up my feet. Because I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pop feet this turn to get the extra attacks. Targ comes up, he ancillary attacks the Roadhog, but still no dice on the Flamethrower. Which is a little unfortunate. Ancillary attack didn't do a whole lot this game, which is sad for me. So it's time to go ahead and be super tricky with the Gorax. And what we're doing here is, he's coming up, and I'm turning him so he can see that Soul Hunter. I want to be very careful with this. I want him to see that Soul Hunter, but not be able to see the Ghost Trader, who's right there. I want him to have line of sight to the Soul Hunter in the back. So that's the closest model. When I go to Frenzy, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go straight backwards towards that other one and put a nice boosted attack roll into him, and hopefully take him out. So here's a little boo-boo. We went ahead and activated that Gunboar. His spirit was knocked out, so he was activating and trying to shoot. My opponent was very gracious and let me take back that activation since nothing had moved. And this is a very orders of activation intensive turn and list, and that's why it's taken me a lot of practice to even get moderately competent, and I'm nowhere close to being good with it. So we're starting with Arkadius. He's maltreating, and then he's going to go ahead, he's going to pop Psychosurgery. That's going to take care of healing everything. Those 2 Razor Boars at the top of the screen only had 1 health, so they were both really hurt, so they benefit a lot from Psychosurgery. Pretty much everything's benefiting from Psychosurgery. It's an amazing spell. Then he's going ahead, he's Primal Shocking some of the Ghost Raiders. And again, with Crippling Grasp on them, they're nothing. That Primal Shock was a power 6 off the Razor Boar. And then Popping Feet. So the Gorax plan went perfectly. He goes ahead, he feats, and he takes out a Soul Hunter. So, awesome on me. I have Razor Boar go ahead and go on to a Ghost Raider who no one cares. And the next Razor Boar goes to the guy who's engaging him. That's why he didn't go for the Ghost Raider. And then the other Razor Boar is going for another one of the dudes. And I don't even know if they damage him. But hey, it's free attacks on these Cav models. They're very important for me. I have Gunboar go ahead and he frenzies onto whatever. Next up, Arkadius goes, he Primal Shocks again, and gets rid of the Blackbane who is engaging the Gunboar. Then he's kind of starting to scoot away. And we're getting really, really nervous. I know at the beginning I didn't particularly mind his, not having a ton of shooting, but then I realized Siphon Bolt affects Fury, and I'm just terrified that I'm going to do all this work and Goreshade's just going to come in and blow Arkadius off the table. So I hate making bunkers in this game. I feel like bunkering is not a terribly effective strategy, but it's what I got. So that's what Arkadius is kind of going to start doing in the back there. So the Razor Boars activate at the top of the screen. One of them blows out Bane Rider. The other one, he might do damage. I don't remember. But those little guys have been amazing for taking out so much of this stuff. So now the Gunboar is going. He's aiming. He's boosting to hit, boosting to damage, and taking out that final Soul Hunter. So now we've got one unit of cavalry completely dead, no more Mockery alive. And then we're only one Bane Rider away from getting the next unit. So that's where I went ahead and I primaled that Roadhog. Killing all the cavalry is important to me. So even though I'm going to lose the beast for a turn, it was important enough to me to go ahead and do that. And I go ahead, when he walks on in, I make sure he's going to just go straight into that Razor Boar there. And that Razor Boar is actually fairly injured, so he'll actually heal himself if he kills it. So every now and then Bacon's an okay rule. Then finally the second gun board goes up. He was my backup plan if the first one didn't do in the Soul Hunter. He works on shooting the Arc Node because again Siphon Bolt's very scary, but sadly he misses, and boosted blast damage isn't enough to knock anything out, unfortunately. Otherwise, just a little bit of positioning, nudging, but overall, I think a very effective feat turn. I was very pleased, and hopefully that bunker helps me survive.
Cryx turn 3. I lost both units of Cav, but that's okay because I have a plan and I know it can work. I allocate a point of focus to Deathripper because I'm actually going to need him. I will be arcing. I'm thinking I do have some model placement that I need to work on because there are a couple things that are in the way of each other. Like I think Croe is in the way of Goreshade, but that's inconsequential to the plan. So I immediately start off by activating Dougal MacNaile. He advances, does his mini feat to increase the range attacks of friendly faction models, and then he starts going to work and shooting the Gorax. He hits the Gorax 4 times reliably, and only damages the Gorax on 2 of the shots, which is okay, because that's bonus damage. I really planned on him doing a whole lot anyways, but he did more than I thought he would. Then, once he's in place, I'm feeling that the plan has a reasonable chance to succeed. It's not exactly a Hail Mary, but it's not a foregone conclusion it will work. So I activate Darragh Wrathe. I have him move. I have to take the free strike at this point. I have to risk it. I need him elsewhere. I activate or continue activation and do Death Ride, and see if I can get the Ghost Raiders closer, because they may only be able to move 4 inches, but 5 with Darragh Wrathe, which might be enough. So once Darragh Wrathe moves and does his ability, activate the Ghost Raiders and have them move their 4 inches. And I'm happy with how far they got. I'm like, yeah, I think I can make this work. I'm gonna drop some mockeries of. I'm gonna drop Mockery of Life. Then just gonna Siphon Bolt. My opponent only has 1 fairy on him, so I have to press him hard, and I know I can do it. Skarlock activates, and then I need to get Goreshade into the zone, so I Siphon Bolt the Croe Cutthroat that is in his way, and yeah, that was it. I killed. At that point, Deathripper does his running. These are proxy based for movement. I have to be careful how I run them so I don't get into the melee range of anything else and take free strikes. So once my opponent and I agree on the path, I go ahead and move Deathripper there. Then I activate Goreshade and charge the closest gun Boar. I just need to get Goreshade close enough so I can start putting down some resurrecting some dead guys. So it hits the gun Boar, does an alright amount of damage. Damage is not too important to me, so I go ahead and drop a Ghost Raider. Use 2 for Mockery of Life, and drop a Ghost Raider. Now my plan is the Daisy Chain. Well, the current plan is the Daisy Chain. Drop him out there and then freeze him. Then at this point, I realized the glaring mistake that I did. So I try and salvage the plan. Drop another guy, gonna try and freeze him. I have to make sure that the second guy I drop is in command range of Blackbane. I get him as far as I can. Then Goreshade goes ahead and pops his feet. So we get my opponent's miles out of the way and check to see if the second guy dropped catches Arkadius, which he does not. So I ended up freezing Targ, Gorax, and then as well as a Roadhog and the lesser pig warbeast that is near me. Then, just because I could, Goreshade does cast Siphon Bolt and cast it into the Gorax through the Arc node that he froze that's standing in front of Arkadius. So it does no damage, but I still get a point of Fury. I realize that my opponent used him to cast his Animus on the Roadhog, so I make him put it down, and then I purposely take one from him. Then I activate the Ghost Raiders. They advance up, and they begin to fire away after I move all of them. I had one off to the side that I think I kind of misplaced him. So he hits, does some damage. Second one goes after the Gorax in front of Arkadius. He hits. And they have poison, so they're getting 3 dice on damage. So I wipe the Gorax off the board. Then the last guy has a chance to shoot Arkadius, but it's the last shot, so I just go for Targ instead. Kill something. And then I just move the one Stalker into the Gorax. I will list the error that I realized I made in the after report. But I might be able to survive because Goreshade has high armor and focus.
So, holy cow, that was really stressful. And just Targ took one for the master. He was what basically prevented me from getting frozen. And thank you, buddy. I'm really sorry that you had to die for that. As planned, the Roadhog goes ahead, he frenzies, and he bacons the Razor Boar, so just to heal himself a little bit. Anyway, he had taken like 1 or 2 damage. And bye-bye Razor Boar. Otherwise, I'm going ahead, I'm shaking stationary on a fair amount of the models. And, I mean, Goreshade is right there in front of me, he's naked. It's about as good an opportunity as one can ask for. So I'm going to do my best to take that Roadhog, I'm going to Primal him, I'm going to Forced Evolution him. I would love to get Crippling Grasp onto Goreshade, but he's engaged, and I don't really want to take the models out of engagement for him. So I did upkeep. So instead, I went ahead. I did upkeep Crippling Grasp on the Ghost Raiders because we're going to go ahead and Primal Shock a couple of them. So just working out Fury management, order of activation. So we're starting with the Gorax. He goes ahead. He takes a free strike from the Stalker, I believe that's called, and he just walks on up and he's going to throw Primal onto the Roadhog. And right now I'm just kind of stressing out my order of activations, how I want what to put what on what. So I actually take the Bonegrinders and they cast Primal onto the Gunboar because the other Gorax is dead, and so they can cast the Animus of a dead Warbeast. So that saves a little bit of Fury on Arkadius so he can stack a couple more buffs. That's what we're looking for. Then Arkadius goes, he maltreats something, goes ahead, puts Forced Evolution onto the Roadhog. He pops one of the incorporeal guys with Primal Shock, and actually misses the other one. I believe I rolled a Snake Eyes there, and that's going to matter here in a second. So now we've got this Primal Gunboar. We've got a Razor Boar over there as well. So he actually walks through one of the incorporeal models, The Incorporeal Model decides not to free strike him, and he's going to try to oink Goreshade. Because you never know. But in this case, it didn't pan out. So now we have the Primal Gun Boar. He's going on up. He's swinging. And he is swinging like a champ. Love this guy. So I think he drops Goreshade down to like 7 health in one go. And then Snake Eyes is his second attack. But hey, in one shot, awesome guy. Superstar. So now I'm committed. Moving my little Razor Boar out of the way. He's just kind of going over there, no one cares. And so now I have my Roadhog, and he's going to go in, and he's going to bring home the bacon, pun intended, for the pigs. I'm very excited about this. So he's going ahead, he's charging, and he's going through that Incorporeal Model, and he's going to take a free strike. And so I go to do that, and that's, when rules strike. When you take a free strike from an Incorporeal Model passing through it, it becomes corporeal, and you bounce back out, and it fails your charge. And I missed that Primal Shock, and I totally forgot about the rule. I went through all 5 stages, anger, denial, bargaining, acceptance, grief. I had to do it quickly, I was on the clock. But, I was just like, how did I throw away such a good opportunity? Like, on a plate. I've got nothing. Arkadius is naked, he's just hanging out there, you got Goreshade right there. What am I going to do? So I have, I'm in panic mode, I don't know. So I take this gun boar, he walks on up, he boosts a hit, and he randomly rolls what he needs to kill. So thank the Dice Gods for saving me on that one, and I hope you all enjoyed the game.